Hey peeps, so I'm currently editing the first part of my Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers review, so I thought I'd just share my thoughts on a few movies that I saw right quick. So the first film I saw was an Italian documentary called Futura, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's pretty much just like a compilation of interviews involving teenagers during the pandemic about the fears of their future in terms of their careers, societal expectations, and their current living struggles academically or otherwise. It's a fairly well done documentary overall, with great usage of handheld style camera work to make the experience feel very gritty and down to earth. I mean, you could put these people in rooms and have them sit in a chair and just talk, but the experience of grouping them together and having these organic feeling conversations and perspectives really helps to illustrate how they truly feel about their current living experiences. The dialogue shared between everyone really helps paint that detailed portrait of different perspectives from everyone in the same room, and the variety of perspectives never feels dull or repetitive at first. There's some great shots outside the interviews that involve driving, landscapes, and just simple placement of the characters. One or two issues that I have with this movie is that the score was not very memorable, and the film could definitely use a minor trimming down since it can occasionally drag its point a little too extensively. But other than that, this was a pretty solid and simple documentary that does allow a very necessary perspective, and I'm gonna give it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. And the next film I saw was Senior Year, directed by Alex Hardcastle and starring Rebel Wilson, and it was pretty lame. Now, this movie did not infuriate me like I expected it to, but it was very creepy and absurd at times. The whole plot feels like a worse, badly done version of 17 again, and for some weird reason this movie seems to be aware but not in a way that improves it. It's not funny at all, the dialogue is awful, the characters hit the line between forgettable and completely annoying. It was a very predictable movie at times, and the plot overall was just atrociously nonsensical. Rebel Wilson was just Rebel Wilson, and there was nothing notable about her quote unquote comedic performance. The rest of the cast was serviceable, but that's about it. I mean, there's nothing else to add to this. This was just a pretty weird, cringy, and dated movie that leans heavily on nostalgia for its charm, and it just doesn't work. I do not recommend, and I'm just giving it 1 star. And next was a Vietnamese film called Taste. This was Bao-Lei's feature directorial debut after making several short films, and I think it's safe to say that this would work better as a short, which it was already. The highlight of the film is its very mesmerizing cinematography and shot composition. It's gorgeous and incredible with almost an otherworldly feel to it, but that's literally all I can really say about the entire movie. I mean, the overall concept was pretty interesting, but this movie just can get very dull very fast. Now, I'm a stickler for minimalistic storytelling, but this movie felt as empty as the setting the movie takes place in. There's almost nothing happening that was worth any time. It can get very boring for most of it, and you can tell that Bao-Lei has never written a feature film before. Now, it's not entirely pretentious like something like Only God Forgives, but it does suffer from leaning heavily on its aesthetic to move the plot forward more than anything else, and that's not enough, unfortunately. I mean, you can watch this on Mubi if you want. I was pretty disappointed, but maybe this will strike the right chord for others, but for me, I'm only giving it a 2.5 out of 5 stars to be generous. And last was Top Gun Maverick, and it was pretty good. Now, I haven't watched the original in like forever. I mean, I will at some point, I guess, but you can still enjoy this one without seeing the first one, since the film does a pretty decent job at catching up on newcomers on what happened with the original. The highlight of this movie was definitely in how it was shot. You know, not many mainstream directors nowadays think about the importance of cinematography and directing. There's some pretty memorable shots and camera work that involve vehicles and dogfights that feel very real and fresh, that actually show better craftsmanship than many other big budget films that came out this year or the last. The film uses its licensed music appropriately, which complements the film's overall tone. I really like this movie's positive vibe and spirit that can ease in a larger audience, and with that, it definitely earned its money back. The performances were serviceable overall, with Miles Teller being my favorite. Tom Cruise was very charismatic in the role, as well as Jennifer Connelly. My only real criticism is that the plot drags at times. I kind of felt there were times there was just barely any plot progression. I mean, without spoiling anything, the threat doesn't really feel established until like the third act. I mean, most of the time we're just getting exposition about it, but it really bogs the pacing down when it feels like we're just getting told what to care about, especially since the characters, at least most of them, were not all that interesting to me. With the exception of Cruise and Teller's character, everyone else just felt very underdeveloped for some reason, including one character that just kind of felt too over the top. This might have to do with this not really being for me, but it does have a strong first and third act, which is a plus. I mean, I do recommend this movie overall for fans of the first one or newcomers. I doubt I'll be seeing this one again, but I did feel like I got my money's worth anyway, and I'm gonna give it 3 solid stars. Alright peeps, peace.